Okay, so the preceding conversation is about a client who, as you'll hear, has an end user who has an installed Hager keying system, conventional core. It's not small format. Doesn't matter if it's conventional or small format. And the Blue Punch that he bought, and Blue Punch is synonymous for a tool by Pro Lok, and it is literally a way to originate keys. If you have the bitting for the key and you literally punch the keys like this, if you're new to the world of locksmithing and you look up Blue Punch, you'll find it by Pro Lok, and they have a series of Blue Punches for simply doing different key systems. Now, I don't know how many Blue Punches they have. They might have 12. Well, why do they have 12? Well, they have 12 because three things I can think of right off the top of my head. In every key system that you have, the actual profile of the cut in the key itself is specific to that manufacturer's platform. The angle of the cuts, the width of the flattened area at the root of the key, this just happens to be a Schlage key. The angle of the cuts down at the angle of the cuts of the key and how wide that flattened area is particular. That's one. Number two, the depth. How deep a cut is versus any other depth cut in that manufacturer system. So if I were to cut 5 on this, a 5 cut, whatever, 5 is an arbitrary number, really. 5 translates to a very specific dimension from the bottom of the key to the bottom of the cut, or what's called the root depth. Okay, that's the second thing. The third thing that makes it particular is the spacing. So if I went from the center of this cut to the center of this cut, that is a very specific spacing, as is the shoulder or the stop. This has a shoulder stop to the first cut. If it was best small format, it would be from the tip stop to the first cut. That is the spacing. So the shape of the cut, the depth ranges, how does a 2 differentiate from a 3 in terms of a value, if you measured it with a caliper. And then the same logic for the horizontal spacing, so your X and your Z, I suppose. That's why they've got different machines, because if you're going to cut quickset, a 3 cut in quickset's a very different cut than 3 in a Schlage in terms of depth, or Yale, or Corbin Russwin, or Sargent, or Hager in this case. Now, Hager is a very interesting system in the sense that it is a confluence of small format from Best in terms of it being an A2 system, and Best has 3 systems, A2, A3, and A4. So talking about those systems is a different video. But Hager shares the same depths as a Best A2 system. Where Hager deviates is in their spacing. The spacing between chamber A and chamber B and C and D and E and F and G, well, whatever 7 is 140 thousandths, or 0.140, whereas Best is 0.150. What we'll do is we'll dive into a couple of different resources. We'll switch to the screen view before we get to the conversation, and I'll show you where we're getting some of this data from, actually. If you are enjoying this video, please click thumbs up or like, and also please consider subscribing to our channel. Let's move on to the rest of the video. So this is what the client purchased, a Hager Blue Punch key machine, and this is the key gauge area here where a key gauge is, to my all the units that I own have a key gauge. I have 2 or 3 of these different models. They all have a key gauge here, which means you can slide the key into the gauge and it will tell you what the cut is. So let's take a look. I know that their part number is KDIC, and I did call them actually yesterday, and it was interesting because they said, yes, effective today or the day before, they are now including this on the front of the BP201HA. And that's the important part, HA. It's a Hager version. Okay, so when I called them, you know, they said, yeah, we're going to start including that. And, you know, you can buy them separately. And here it is, because it is an A2 key gauge, or what Pro Lok calls a decoder. And all you do is you literally slide you slide the key into this, and when you stop, that's the cut of the key. It's pretty, I would demonstrate it, but I believe it to be a bit obvious. So that will be riveted to the front of the machine. So we took an order from the client for 2 of these. We're going to send them. Now, how do we know that it works? Well, a person that I spoke to at Pro Lok, that person specifically knew exactly what part, but didn't understand the science behind why it would work. Although the tech individual at Pro Lok, who worked with sales about this solution, absolutely understood the science behind it. So let's talk about that. So first of all, let's get to the Hager page within our site. And here, anywhere where you see more from Hager, or the bottom of any page where it says manufacturers, when you click on that, you're going to be able to get to Hager or pull up the Hager manufacturers page. And when that page loads, first of all, there's a video of me talking about the Hager keying system. I don't recall what exactly I get into, but I imagine I try to cover everything. The Hager keying service manual is here. It's also here. So the Hager keying service manual. And I don't refer to this often because I just don't need to, in the sense that much of the information's just retained, so to speak. So as I scroll through this, they go through their system. Let's take a look. Okay, so here's some information. Hager H series for SFIC. So the H series is the key system. H1, H2, H3. Those are the 3 different keyways. These are key blanks and cylinders. These are multi-section key blanks, and that's an all-section blank. Servicing Hager H series SFIC is similar to servicing legacy SFIC products. So when they use the term legacy, they mean best. So legacy SFIC is 0.150. I'll show you more about that in a moment. Hager is 0.140. So again, what that means is you have a really awful drawing of a key. The center of that cut to the center of that cut to the center of that cut to the center of that cut, etc. The center to center on Hager is 0.140, where best, Hager is 140, best is 150. So you can't use a standard key punch because the carriage is not moving center to center the correct distance. You can use legacy SFIC pin kit for Hager H series cores. Now that tells me it must share all of the same depths as a typical best A2. Now they have in the catalog a depth and spacing chart, which I will scroll to. Here it is. Depth and spacing chart. Here's your 140. If you take 0.3559 and you subtract 140, yeah, you're going to get this number. It's not exactly, but it's certainly close enough. So the 3 things I mentioned that make it specific: spacing, the profile of the cut, the angle, and how wide that is, and then the depths, the root depths. Root depth is bottom of the blade to the bottom of the cut. So we would all know that a 9 cut is deeper than a 0 cut in most systems, but not all. Well, why is a 0 cut bigger? Well, it's because it's what's left over. There's a lot more metal left over when it's a 0 cut because it's here to here. Now, if we were to leave that page up, we're going to, anywhere in the site you can look for more from best and get to that manufacturer's page. On here, A2 and A4 key systems training, I want to draw your attention to this because should this client reach out to me again, I'm going to refer them to this document. This is a very protracted way to learn how to combinate best, but everything you need to know is actually here. Okay? This will teach you everything you need to know. There's a couple of numbers that you need to be aware of. There's a formula that you need to be aware of, but that all comes in part and parcel when you're learning how to combinate the system. Now, that depth and spacing chart is extremely handy, and I'm going to show you where all of them are. So if you were to search for HPC and get to their manufacturer's page, however, you could also go here and then Control F for HPC. And on this page, we're going to have the depth and spacing data by manufacturer and by number. We'll just do by manufacturer. So we're going to search for best. Best Aero Falcon A2. Spacing. 0.238 minus 0.088 is 0.150. That's your spacing. Now your depths. Let's take a look what we have here. Okay, so I had said you can use the same kit from Best for Hager, and here's how I know that you can. The root depth on a 0 cut, let's just say a 3 cut, is 0.2805. The root depth on a 3 cut is 0.280. 0.280 for, 5/10,000ths of an inch, you're good. So you can use the same spacing. A 5 is 0.255, a 5 is 0.2555. So that's how we know that the kits are compatible. Therefore, that's how we know that the key gauge from a Best A2 system is going to work. That's how we know. Could someone have determined that just without prior knowledge of studying the Hager manual? Yes, absolutely. People that are super brilliant locksmiths, they would have seen that and said, boy, those depths look like Best. And they would have known that, absolutely. And those are the folks that are exceptionally skilled and patently brilliant when it comes to locksmithing. And then there's the rest of us who just have to study it the hard way. So me and the client that I spoke to on the phone, we've got to study the data. We're not going to innately be able to see something and have an inkling that, yes, I couldn't tell you what root depths are for A2. I refer to the reference document. So that's how we know it's going to work. We don't have to be concerned it's going to work. This is proven it's going to work. Let's move on to the conversation. And if there's any questions on the Best system, on the Hager system that uses Best information, feel free to reach out. This Best inspired key system by Hager is very fascinating. They have every tool in here pretty much, with the exception of a key gauge. Of course, I looked here first. I wanted to have one that would give the client something that said Hager on it. Well, you can buy from Hager the Blue Punch, but it's a BP201HA. Used for all keys with 140 spacing only. This is called a capping press. If you're doing a lot of small format, you're absolutely going to want to invest in this. You can't use the original Best capping press because the spacing is not correct. We mentioned that earlier. There's a code card as well if you have a Blitz machine from HPC. Okay, let's move on. Thank you. If you've not hit subscribe yet, we would very much appreciate if you did, and hopefully you're enjoying this video. Now, let's get back to it. Architectural Builder's Supply is pleased to present you with this recording of the technical question that is listed in the title of this video.
This call may be monitored and recorded for quality assurance.
Who are you with again?
Yeah. Architectural Builders, you sent me an email about your
yes.
Hager Blue
Thank
Punch.
you so much for calling me back. Been quite a nightmare, you know.
Yeah.
Did you?
So, go ahead.
Well, I bought the Blue Punch from UHS Hardware, and I watched the video, training video before I bought it, to see if it would work for me, and it said the guide comes with the punch, and without the guide, the punch is pretty useless,
The gauge, yeah.
Yeah, what did I say? The guide, the gauge. I'm sorry. The key gauge.
Well, you can cut keys completely with it, right? I mean, you just can't slide your key onto the gauge confirm the cut.
No,
There is no
that's
gauge
not,
on the tool.
they call it a gauge. It's a decoder. It tells you, what the depth of the cut is.
Yeah, that's a key gauge. I'm saying with the tool that you bought, you can cut keys, right?
You can cut them, but you don't know what depth to cut them if you're trying to duplicate a key. You can cut original keys, right? See, what my job was
originate keys.
Yeah, you can originate keys, but you can't duplicate keys. And so, without what my job was they just built a new firehouse. I'm out on an island in Massachusetts, and it's huge. It's got EMS, fire, police. It's a huge complex, and the architect had set it up with Hager key system, and they needed copies of keys, lots of them. And so I said, all right, sure, I'll get me one of these punches, because I didn't think I could do it with regular duplicating, And but the end result was I was able to figure out a way to cut keys with the duplicator. I was able to do it. It was a little tricky because.
What machine were you using to duplicating the keys?
Silica or something. I forget the name of it. It's a manual, but it's got a knob on it. I just woke up.
It's just a duplicator, is what it is. Yeah, that's not. I mean, that's not. Not only is it, of course, as you know, not the correct way to do it, but it's you're lucky
not at all.
If you only have 20% failure rate with it. So
I had to cut.
Now
go ahead.
What I would have done in a pinch is I would have gotten a core, and I would have dropped pins into a chamber, and I would have continued to drop pins until I determined, what the cut on the key was. That's in a pinch what could have been done. But let me ask you this: Do you ever work on small format cores?
Not yet.
Okay, so that explains it. The Hager system is the Hager.
These are not small format. You're talking about the interchangeable cores?
Yes.
Yeah, these are not the interchangeable cores.
They can be conventional. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, okay, go ahead.
So the Hager keying system shares in common with the best A2 system all of the depths. The thing that's different between Hager and Best is the spacing. The spacing on Best is 150 thousandths and Hager's 140 thousandths. So the answer is you could simply use any Best A2 key gauge to gauge your keys. And in fact, Pro Lok now, as in the last 2 days, has made a policy change that they will be riveting a Best A2 key gauge to the front of a BP201HA blue punch. So
that's probably me screaming and hollering.
when I called them, I thought, I bet this guy was barking up their tree.
Not just me. I called them. COK Supplies called them. UHS Hardware called them. It was like they had
But that tells me there's a circle of amateurs involved. That's unfortunate because there's a circle of amateurs involved because anyone who knows...
I'm an amateur.
Well, I mean, to me, it's obvious that an A2 key gauge will work. Just a common Best A2. And problem solved. It should never, unfortunately, you should never have had to make all these calls, and all the people you bought it from not possessing the proper technical skills to know,
to have studied Hager and to have studied Best. You need an A2 key gauge. It's that simple. It's a $9 thing.
Yeah, and do you sell them?
Yeah, sure I do. It's too easy. It's like, yeah, of course. That's what you need. I'll email you a quote for one. I mean, I'm sorry you went through it. It's just,
I'd just give you a credit card and everything and buy 2 of them from you right now. Maybe send it on up. It was yesterday. I was going through so many different books, and I printed out every piece of material I could on Hager and read it all. And it was interesting because when I was looking through their book and I was looking at the interchangeable cores, and I was like, wait a minute now, this looks awfully damn close. I wonder if that would work. And so to hear that from you, how do you know that from just studying it or studying the Hager system?
Yes.
Is that how you figured that out?
Yeah. I'm an ALOA certified professional locksmith in the sense I am, but which doesn't mean, I know stuff. It's just I have studied Hager thoroughly, and I have studied Best thoroughly and many other platforms. And, over time you forget the facts of the system that you need to work in. I can't recall the rules in terms of dropping finger pins for medical. I have to look it up. Not finger pins, but, left, right, center. I don't remember the rules, but I've got the reference document. So when I went back and looked at the Hager reference document, I says, well, there was not much different between that and Best. Yes, that's what it was. It's only the spacing. So you can't use a capping press from Best. You can't use, a regular punch because the spacing is 140, is 0.140, not 0.150 when it comes to Hager. But all the depths are the same. And Hager's manual says you can use your Best A2 service kit. You can use that pinning kit. The diameter of the pins are the same. The depths are the same. You just need a specialized, you need a tool just for cutting Hager only. When it comes to a blue punch, when it comes to a combinator, what Best would call it, or a blue punch, what Pro Lok calls them.
Yeah,
that's the thing with locksmithing.
I know it's like you pull MacGyver stuff sometimes, which is
It's right. Yeah,
I'm fairly new to the industry, and my knowledge base is. I want to say I'm a rookie, but I might be a little bit more than a rookie. But I ran into this thing, and I was like, I got pissed off. See, and I shouldn't have done that because when you do that, then you lose your perspective, And but this particular job, I had to make like 30 keys for these guys, right? And I know what's going to happen is when they turn it. This is the construction people. When they turn it over to the town, they're going to want to put in a master key system. They're not going to want to deal with all these damn keys, And so there's a real money-making opportunity here. And if this architect is using Hager's system on this project, I know they got 2 more big projects coming up. So this could be very profitable for me. And so I was like, well, I got to figure out how to do this. And I'm glad you mentioned the Best pinning kit, too, because I'm going to need to do that if I set up a master key system for them. And so thank you so much. Let's do this.
Yeah, you're definitely going to need to dive deeply into the study of Best if you're going to start working in small format and master key systems. And I cannot more strongly urge you not only join ALOA, but participate in the convention, in classes. And it's not only for the knowledge, but it's for the networking as well. I mean,
I've been a member for 2 years. I have been a member for 2 years, and I'm getting ready to retire actually. So what I'm doing is I got a guy that I've been training, and I'm sending him down to Dallas for that 6-day program for fundamentals of locksmithing, and so that'll give him a good.
Chris Chase is the teacher.
There you go. it'll give him a
Yeah.
good start there. I also joined the Massachusetts Locksmith Association, which has given me some new suppliers. But and I brought him along with me.
Well,
I'm trying to let him do the learning, and because I'm going to be backing off from it. But at the same time, you know how it is, and you want to know yourself too. So, when I was a hotel security director for like 20 years, and so we had a lot of the small format interchangeable cores, but all I did was change the cores out. So, I didn't do any pinning or anything like that. I bought, bags of cores and keys and just changed them all out. I never, and if I had a problem, I called our local locksmith at the time. And so I know about them, but I don't know about them at all, and I know, so probably the first step's going to be learning more through, like you say, ALOA, and so that's great.
Yeah, it's not only when you're involved with Aloha, it's not what you learn sometimes as much as you're going to meet people whose shoulder you can tap in the future and say, hey, I'm stuck, help me. And that's what, I have met some of the most famous people in the world that no one has ever heard of through Aloha. So anyway.
I got a good friend of mine that was, he's a charter member of the SAFE organization there. Was it Stafter? And is a founding member.
Yeah.
And I got when I went to the MLA meeting the other day, it was a mini show is what it was. I ran into Bob there, and so that was great. And then there's this guy, Vincent Chestnut, that he was on Martha's Vineyard, and he moved to New Hampshire. And he comes down here once a month because he has to service his SFIC customers that he's got, as well as some proprietary customers that he's got. And so he was down here a couple of weeks ago, and it was like 10 or 4 in the afternoon, and he's trying to wrap up a job. And he needed 2 rim cylinders that he didn't have. And he called me up, and I was there in 10 minutes, gave him the 2 rim cylinders. He finished the job. The next day, I was on a job that was interchangeable cores, and I needed to get two keys made, and I didn't have any way to do that. And I reached out to him, and he was still on the island. And in 15 minutes, he was on my job. He banged out the 2 keys with a punch, and so it was great. We both backed each other up, But so definitely, I have to lean on him right now for that format, and he gave me a whole rundown how to use the punch, and that's why when I picked up this job to make these Hager keys, I said, well, hell, I'm just going to buy one, So it is great. And then guys like you calling me back that actually have a much larger knowledge base than I do, it was, you wouldn't believe how many people I've talked to in the last 2 days about this. It's mind-boggling.
It is definitely unfortunately, this answer was just right in front of all of us all along. Yeah. Okay, well, I'll enter an order for a couple of those key gauges, and I will send them to you.
Let me give you...
what?
Architectural Builders Supply hopes you have enjoyed this program. Again, thank you for watching, and if you've enjoyed this video, please click thumbs up, please subscribe, and maybe even send the video to someone that you know. Thank you.